Good everyone, on today's video today we have a review on the I-29. This is one of the vehicles that you could get through the 10 Rare Vehicles event. And this is one of the vehicles that I got, because obviously I already had a few of them during the event, and this was the one that I mainly wanted to add to my collection. Now of course, this vehicle is, to say the least, when I first got my hands on it, the first thing I did was load traces in the 20s, Universal on the 762s, 400 meter conversions, and just went out clubbing. The problem is now is, of course, the Russian guns and a lot of guns in general took quite a big nerf, and one of the other guns being the 151, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. The I-29, of course, is a heavily armed interceptor aircraft, and of course, some people refer to this as a Yak-2 clone, but it's a little bit different to the Yak-2 in a few areas, but still. That's just something that I hear people saying, and, well, it does have some similarities to it, but this thing's just more fun, in my opinion, when the guns actually do work. So, of course, before we begin, I need to address the elephant in the room, that is this thing's price tag. This vehicle, on average, is priced at around 597 Gaijin coin. Now, I've seen one on the marketplace that is currently on sale for over 1600 Gaijin coin. Yeah, that's a lot of money for a rank 1 2.7 aircraft with, well, I say inconsistent. Better than some would say guns, and of course no secondary loads because this plane does not carry it. Although Hairy Feet would gladly tell you the story of this little hinge area back here, but that's besides the point. We're not here to discuss that today. So speaking of the armament, let's take a look at it. We have two 20mm Shavac cannons with 120 rounds apiece, and we also have three 7.62 machine guns with 900 rounds apiece, two in the engine nacelles and one in the nose. This is quite formidable for armament for 2.7, but of course, as I mentioned, the Shavac cannon has taken quite a severe nerf. But I've at least found a way to somewhat remedy it, but it doesn't fully fix it, but we'll cover that shortly. Then, of course, the main weakness of the I-29 is how easy it is to set on fire, with the fuel tanks being in the centre. It's very easy to set this thing on fire, and in my experience, it doesn't put fires out. But even so, that's one of its few weaknesses, other than its really poor turn rate at mid to high speeds. And its turn rate in general is quite low compared to something like a Yak-2, which actually outturns this thing. But this vehicle feels better to fly just overall, but that's just my opinion. We then, of course, come to the engines, which we have a pair of Clemov VK105Rs with 1101 horsepower and max power of 1020 on 100%. This is pretty good horsepower for what this is, and obviously it's relatively well powered. Of course, at higher altitudes, these engines do start to lose a bit of power, but with careful use of landing flaps, this thing can hang, to say the least, against quite a lot of aircraft, and you'll see that in this gameplay. But of course, with the guns being a bit 50-50, getting reversals off can be a bit tricky, and of course, if your guns aren't doing the damage, that does, of course, make it a little less enjoyable. But that's where my belt recommendations come into play. I recommend running armoured targets on the 20mm because obviously since the nerf, the tracer belt is basically useless, the stealth belt is horrible, and the ground targets is even worse. For your 7.62s, it doesn't really matter, but I would recommend Universal as this seems to be more consistent for setting fires. And, well, with the rate of fire of these guns, it doesn't really matter because you'll just shred anyone's wing off, to be honest. You can also run tracers, but this, for me, is just not ideal because it feels a bit more sparky. This just feels a bit more consistent. Of course, as I mentioned, this vehicle does not feature any secondary loads, so this won't be very useful in ground RB. However, there is a tech tree equivalent of this vehicle, kind of, which is just as capable, which is the Yak-2 cab, or the Yak-2 cab. I just missed it there, didn't I? Where is it? There it is. The Yak-2 cab is basically a family member of the I-29. Obviously, the I-29 is more of an intercept focus. This is more of a mixed role aircraft. So you have similar engines, but these are a bit weaker, but this aircraft is a little bit lighter. And of course, you can carry some bombs in this aircraft, 4 100 kilogram bombs. So if you really want to avoid paying the ridiculous price tag and you want something that functions similar to an I-29, this is probably going to be your best bet. And personally, if you're just looking to have something that feels like an I-29, go for this. You get an attacker spawn, you still get the decent climb rate, you still get decent guns, you just don't get as much ammo, and of course you get the versatility of the aircraft. That being said though, if you was able to get this aircraft, it's pretty fun to say the least. I'm going to hand you over to the gameplay now, of course. I would still not recommend picking up this aircraft at its current price tag. If it comes up in a future event though, definitely grab this thing because it is going to be quite fun if they ever fix the guns, but I doubt they will. Anyway, I'll leave you all to it for today, and I'll see you all on the next one. Well, hello there, Mr. HE-111. I'm a little bit lonely up here because no one seems to like to climb at the minute, other than our bombers. Hope I'm not going to have a freaking spark or anything, because that would be embarrassing. There we go. Even with the 20mm Chevette nerve, these things are still nasty guns. Especially combined with the 7.62s. So next target will be that BF-109, because I'm not worried about the Spitfire, I'm not worried about the 109 down there, I'm worried about that BF-109. He's quite dangerous. I don't think he wants to engage me anyway, but, you know, I'd rather deal with him first than deal with him later, so to speak. Why are you taking a head-on with a MiG-3? Well, you just made yourself a nice, easy target, my friend. So you can see the sparking there, but, like, these guns just hit so hard, even with the nerf. It's like night and day. Like, yeah, the guns used to be more brutal, but they're still brutal. 2 Chevette with armored targets, 3 7.62s, like, it's gonna be nasty no matter what. I'm gonna see if this guy will stall himself out for me. A little bit of rudder just to counteract his nose movement. Landing flaps. I'm gonna try and bring the nose up a little bit here. No, I'm not going to get a shot here, I can tell you that much. But he can't do this, whereas I can, because I have landing flaps deployed. Nice crit on the tail, that ain't going to do it though. Landing flaps back down. So this thing handles stall fights pretty well, as you can tell. Like, it's not the best at stall fighting, because obviously it's still a twin-engine plane. But that's where you have your allies to come in. That was some god-awful aim. Yeah, I'll take it. I'm not too fussed about kills anyway. Team came to help, so that's all I can ask for them. Alright, next up. C200 will probably be the choice, because the H81's basically dead at this point. One other thing as well, you got to watch the compression. This thing doesn't like high speed, like, at all. I wouldn't advise taking this thing to too high speed, because it will start to struggle. Alright, cannon's out of ammo, but that's fine. You can see the compression there, can't you? It's a bit rough, but she handles it fine. It's just you got to be a bit more cautious. But this game's practically over now. And there we go. There's just one guy left. But I don't know where he is. It's a bomber of some description. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop one of the many Avenger orders I have. And it's a DB7. Oh boy, I don't like dealing with these, but especially when you have no cannon, but yeah, the 7.62 should do it. But yeah, like this thing has incredible rate of climb. It's very consistent. It's just the guns, as you saw with the 109, it can still be sparky. So if you did get this plane, or you can get this plane at some point in the future, perhaps, it is still very decent. It's just not as good as it used to be because, trust me, the guns have taken a big nerf. That I can tell you. There we go. That's game. That was probably the DB7's best hope, to be honest, but even with the 7.62s, you just aim for the pilot. Yeah, see, even he's like, damn. That's just the 7.62s, buddy. Wait till the 20s kick in. But there you go. 3 air kills, 3 assists. I'll take that. Obviously, we could have gotten a bit better, but, you know, that's something. And we get a box. I don't want to know what's in this. Please do not be what I think you'll be. And we get backups. Well, I mean, it's something. But yeah, it pays okay, but obviously it's a rank 1, so don't expect this thing to be raking SL into your account or anything. But it can definitely do some work. It's just, of course, the ridiculous price and the fact that it's rank 1, 2.7, and the guns are a bit 50-50, as you saw. But otherwise, I'm really glad I got this thing.